I'm Marta del Amo from MIT Technology Review. We work with the English version, and we focus on emerging technologies. Big data is one of them. And when trying to extract the impact of this technology on society, we talked to Álvaro, who, as Juan said, was the second winner of TEXATA. And let's see if we can get some information from him so that you can see how his experience was like. I think we should start talking about your experience at TEXATA. First, it's the first hackathon that I participated in. I thought it was crazy to participate in a context like this with so much tension, where you have to solve such a complex problem. But this one called my attention because of the way it is approached, which is different from other competitions of a kind. And I have to say that having participated in it, well, it was a difficult experience, yes. I suffered a lot of stress, but I think it was very exciting, and I don't regret having participated. So it was a good experience in spite of the stress. Okay, tell us how TEXATA was all about, the phases, etc. What's interesting is that it was a competition. The company organizing this wanted to give a different approach. So the idea was to organize some kind of Champions League of this technology competitions. We have big rugby competitions in the US, so why not do something similar? Just like you have big chess competitions, why not do something with big data? And the idea was not so much to solve a problem, but to organize a competition of 4 hours where you give everything you have. With that, you eliminate some participants, the ones who continue. So it's a data league. Yes, that's right. And in the last final, they grouped together champions to compete amongst themselves and organize some kind of Super Bowl. And what did they ask from you in each phase? What limitations did you have? Well, it was 4 hours where the first rounds, anyone could participate, connecting on the internet. They give you a challenge, and in 4 hours you had to turn off your phone, work on it. So an interesting thing is that these rounds changed regarding the type of skills you needed. First ones were more technical. You needed to have knowledge of engineering, programming, databases, Hadoop, etc. And then they give you more information, or they required more business knowledge. It was an interesting idea because it allowed you to do a good job in different areas. Now tell me, the first round, what kind of data did they give you? Well, the first round was the first filter. So that one was a bit technical. The first questions, well, it was a bit like a test, with questions about programming, mathematics, statistics. But I think that they were posed in an intelligent way, because they were not the typical questions you can ask in Google and find an answer. No, you have to know a little bit about the projects. You have to know how to work on them. That is the first thing. With that, you invested some time, and then the rest of the time Well, what was it all about? They gave us data about health inspections in Austin, and they asked you to, for example, with this data, can you prove that health quality has improved with the years? And that was it. What could you do to solve that? Anything. You could use the data to do statistical analysis. So it wasn't so much the technology you use, but knowing what you have to use to answer the question. The second phase, well, the second phase was different. Then we went straight to a practical case. There wasn't as much theory. And that was interesting for two reasons. First, the questions were not specific. They said, you have this data, analyze them, and tell me what you think. What business unit would you propose with this data? We're talking about a set of data which are open, data about trips of New York, Texas for 2 years was relatively big, about 20 gigabytes. I don't know if that qualifies as big data or not, but when you're in a 4-hour competition and you need to do this, I can tell you it's big data. So it was very focused on, first of all, do you have a problem? What do you do to solve it? And then if you want to download the data, you'll see what you do with it. But the data is here in the Amazon cloud. These are the tools. So that's where I had to work hard with all the tools you told me. Our Amazon colleague spoke about. Well, I work with my usual technology, but here you don't work with your usual technology. You have to work with a cloud. So you need technical genius. I give you all this data, and you decide what you want to do with them. All you need to do is give an answer. Yes, there was technical difficulty because of the fact that it was in the cloud, but you also had to do some business knowledge. You had to do some quick analysis because you couldn't work with this information in so little time. But then you have to give a report, and that report, you had to say, okay, I've detected such and such business need, I propose this idea, and then you had to analyze whether the City Council of New York could be involved or not. So I proposed, I saw there were some areas where there were more clients being picked up, but this may be influenced by things such as the hour of the day, whether it's raining or snowing. There have been terrible snowstorms in New York, and that has had an impact probably on the taxi service. So the idea is to put everything in a cocktail and try and do an app for mobiles that can help taxi drivers to decide which are going to be the hot points during a certain period of time, either because it's raining or for whatever reason. And a key factor here that helped me move to the next stage is that, well, apart from the information I got, I managed to find a meteorology database from the U.S. government, and I proposed to bring this data together to improve the ability to refine. So with this creativity and imagination, then we go to the next phase. We go to Austin. Yes, we went to Austin live, and there things were completely different. Even though the competition was done in 4 hours, we were surprised because 4 days before they told us, this is what we're going to do. You'll have to solve this kind of problem. And they said, Cisco is behind all this. They were the ones interested in this whole thing. They wanted to see innovative ideas that people from all over the world could propose. And they said, at Cisco, we have a web community. If I buy a Cisco router and I have a problem, I can go to that forum, to their forum, talk about the problem that I've had, and another user from that technology or a Cisco technician can help me solve my problem. And they said, okay, we have this, now improve it. That's what Cisco said. I'm not going to give you the data yet because you're not in Austin yet, but start thinking about it. So We have
un sistema que yo creo es muy inteligente para detectar cuando hay preguntas duplicadas, que es que cuando alguien tiene ciertos privilegios en la web puede decir, esta pregunta es duplicada.
You can say,
Entonces esto te evita un poco, no que la gente cree preguntas
with this,
repetidas,
people won't
pero
ask
sí,
the same questions again, but at least you will reroute people to the right service. So let's do this, but let's make it automatic so that when someone asks a question, there will be text analysis done, and you can say, well, this question is being answered in such and such thread. And it has a very clear business application. You shorten the response time because if the system says, is this what happens to you? Then they won't bother you again. And you save time from Cisco technicians. So I thought we could do this. How can I try this? I had no data. So I lowered this data. So you were already working there. Yes. And part of a challenge was, we give you this, let's see what you do. So I downloaded all of this, and I started to build all the business models. So when the competition started, they gave us the real data. We integrated the model. And with that, I presented a solution. People like that very much for two reasons. We thought about the challenge, they took things, and then this prototype. So I was able to show live that if I used only Cisco data, the level of confidence was this. But if I used all combined sources, then it was different. So at the end, in this round, we had to present the results in only 5 minutes. It was like a sales pitch. And thanks to that, I managed to end in the second position. You're talking about knowing the business, knowing the client, and it's striking because the more mathematical profiles, more mathematical kind of people are not used to this. So why do you think that the competition was so business-focused? Well, because of the fact that it's necessary. It's a reflection of reality. When you need to solve these challenges, you need skills in all of these fields. The fact is that when you talk about the data science unit, which is the ideal of a data scientist, people always talk about 4 types of abilities. 2 are more technical and 2 are more of the real world. The first 2 are engineering, computing, programming, and the others are mathematics, statistics, in order to understand the models that those data works with. And then you need other things, because you need to avoid the effect of, I'm here to talk about my book. What do I mean by this? If you go to the client and say, I have these problems, and someone says, I'm very good at solving predictive problems. Well, that's your book, but it doesn't work like that. You need to know what needs they have, and link what you can do with the abilities or skills they have. And the other type of skills are soft skills. You have to be able to explain your idea, work in a team, because when you get involved in this type of thing, you may start working alone, but you end up working with many more people, and this is a mix that you need to be able to do this in the real world. So at the end, what we see is that a person is either able to have those 4 skills, or else they'll have to work as a group to fill in the gaps. So you ended up being in the second position, one of the few Spaniards to do it, but you didn't win. Now the question is, what was the reason why the winner won? It's like the Invisible Armada. They were very good, but they didn't win. Well, I believe, I humbly have to say that the project that won was really good. And I was surprised, too. What the Vietnamese girl proposed was a system that read automatically all the threads, all the information in a thread, and summarized it in a single sentence. It's very creative, and it has a lot of underlying technology. And she said, if I'm interested in this sentence, I can click on it, and then I get a paragraph that summarizes everything. And you could click, and there were different levels of summaries. I had never seen anything like that. The judges who were there hadn't seen anything like that either, so that's why she won the prize. So there's the usefulness, the utility, and the technical complexity. But do you think that technical complexity is very much appreciated? Well, technical complexity is what allowed me to do all that. Now I'd like for you to tell us what you've learned, because it was your first competition of this kind. So what lessons did you learn? What mistakes you made? Maybe this recommendation is not necessary here, but people who are interested in this, I would recommend them to go into all this, because when you face a challenge like this, you realize that this is serious. What happens is that technologies are changing every year, so either you have something that kicks your ass to learn more things, or else you will be lagging behind. So in this kind of competition, you have to force yourself. You have to say, okay, if I don't do the right thing, I will not win. And you always have the chance to see what ideas other people have had, people working in the same problem as you. In the first round, with restaurant data, one of the questions was, they gave you the name of two streets, and you have to find the intersection of those streets and find the restaurants closer to that intersection. As a mathematician, I described the street formula. I learned which were the closest data, and another colleague of mine went to Google Maps. When he told me, I was like, what's this? But that's a feeling that you have all the time. It sounds obvious when you're told, but when you're trying to solve problems with ABC, when someone gets to or does something different, you learn. And what would you advise? Well, I would suggest that you go to events like this and listen to a lot of people, listen to what they're doing. And as I said, when you have a problem, if you face a problem, even though you may have done it 1,000 times and you know how to do it, you should stop and think, okay, what are people doing around me? And for that, there are lots of resources. And you need to know what technologies are being used. This cover flow, well, you can see what people are using. So there are many resources that allow you to do this and say, okay, I would do it like this, but let's see if, well, since I've been doing this like this for many years, if people are doing it differently, I'll do it differently. In TEXATA, you had a time limitation. How do you value the decision between doing things very fast or more slowly, trying to find a more efficient or useful way of doing it? Do you think that people should think about it? What's important is to have at least two ideas, because probably one will fail. And it's always like that. 4 hours isn't much time, but you have to stop and think about two ideas. And since sometimes you need to do some analysis and it takes a while, that minute you have waiting for the result to come, you can use it to think. You can say, okay, this idea is already being executed. What can I do that may help me? So instead of going have some coffee, yes, you have to concentrate. And once you win, now that you've won, have you found any changes apart from what you've learned? Well, this edition was the second one. In this edition, one of the participants was a guy who won the prize last year, and he wanted to win again. He didn't succeed, but he fought hard. We asked him, how has your life changed compared to last year? Because you've been a champion for 1 year already. And he said something that sounds very simple, but it's interesting. He said, now people listen to me. And it's true. I was second, but when I talk to people, they say, look, we have this guy who was second in a competition. So when I say something, they're more willing to pay attention to you, and it adds value. If you want to participate in important projects so relevant, well, the people who are going to allow you to do it should know that you know how to do it. Because if they give you this opportunity, it is then that you can implement everything you know. And that's the most exciting thing. Thank you, Álvaro. We've run out of time, but Álvaro is going to be here over beers. Okay. If you want to ask him something, you can ask him later.